When French explorer Samuel de Champlain arrived in what is now Vermont, he whipped out his crisp 1647 map, looked at the Green Mountain and said, "I will name it Green Mountain." Vermont, or Vermont, was born. While Champlain might not have been so smart, you can be if you relocate to the Green Mountain State. Here's 10 reasons why you should move to Vermont. It was its own country at one point. The Vermont Republic became independent from the jurisdiction and land claims of the British colonies of Quebec, New Hampshire, and New York in 1777. It had operated as its own nation for 14 years before joining America in the country's 14th state. During this time, the Republic of Vermont even began printing their own currency called the Vermont Copper. While you won't see the Vermont Copper back on Bloomberg anytime soon, it's pretty cool to live in a state that did its own thing for 14 years. You aren't constantly being sold stuff. Speaking of self-sufficient, this is a state that is careful about what it lets in. A prime example is that Vermont was the last state to get its own Walmart. The Green Mountain didn't even see the massive grocery store chain until 1996. And while Vermont is picky about the chain restaurants and big box stores that it lets set up shop, it's also got tough rules against roadside billboards. In fact, billboard signs have been prohibited for the last 40 years. After all, nothing ruins your commute like a 7-foot tall real estate agent yelling at you to sell your home. Stunning commutes. While the absence of billboards plastered alongside the road will certainly make your commute more peaceful, Vermont has plenty of other factors which will encourage you to take a long way home. The state has about 6,000 miles of paved road and 8,000 miles of dirt road. It's also home to over 100 covered bridges, some of which were built in the early 1800s. So, not only do you get to experience the joy of cruising through the scenic Vermont hills, you also get to experience the daily I might die thrill of driving over a rotten 200-year-old bridge. The beautiful and tasty maple trees. Vermont's scenic highways would be absolutely nothing without the sugar maples. Visitors from around the world come to Vermont every single fall to be able to see the maple trees change color. But the real magic happens in the spring, syrup season. It's no surprise Vermont's state tree is the sugar maple. The region has an annual in St. Albans, which is dedicated to the trees and produces more maple syrup than the next 4 states combined. Watch your back, Canada. You're next. In total, Vermont produces 500,000 gallons of that good tree blood every year. That's nearly enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. But Phelps, if you're watching this, please, it's not a challenge. You'll eat really, really well. While there is no shortage of the sweet stuff, unless you're Buddy the Elf, maple syrup isn't a food group. Not to worry, Vermont's got plenty of other options at its 85 different farmers markets, as this state is all about the farm to table life. Since Vermont is all about supporting local, it's pretty rare to find fast food or even popular chain restaurants as easily as you might in other states. In fact, Montpelier is the only state capital that doesn't even have a McDonald's. And while that might be a con to some, let's be honest here, it's probably time to face your chicken McNugget addiction. Besides, if you are craving some junk food, Waterbury, Vermont is home to the Ben & Jerry's factory, so your 2 favorite buddies are never far away. Everybody loves Ben & Jerry's in Vermont, even the pigs, as waste from the ice cream factory is actually given to the local Vermont farmers to feed their hogs. They love all the flavors, except one, mint Oreo. Hot take, frozen toothpaste is not an acquired taste. All that peace and quiet. Living in a populated area can be great, until it's 4 a.m. and you've been awake because of the barking dogs, cop cars, babies crying, roommates, gunshots going off, rock band next door practicing, and sometimes you just want to move to a cabin in the woods and follow your dreams of becoming a hermit. Well, Vermont is that woods. Vermont is the 49th most populated state. Even Alaska's population surpasses that of the Green Mountain State. Still having trouble in trying to wrap your head around how few people live here? Well, get this. Vermont's entire population is less than 7% of New York City. In fact, if you lived in a big city, there is a chance that your high school had a much larger population than Vermont's capital. Virginia has nearly 2,500 residents, and while some people joke that Vermont has a cow for every resident, it's not true. There's actually 1 cow for every 4 people. It's comforting to know that if they ever tried to revolt, we could still take them. The laid-back lifestyle. honestly, Vermont doesn't care. In the best way, that is. If you can't leave the house without getting gussied up, this probably isn't the state for you. But if you're sick of living in cities where people judge you for what you wear to the grocery store, you're in luck. Goodbye 90210 and hello 05401. Vermonters are way too busy doing more outdoorsy stuff to even bother about what they look like while they do it. Muddy rain boots or snow pants are basically the only seasonal trends you'll be seeing around town. Now, this is not to say that Vermont is a trashy state. In fact, they just prefer to flex via expensive skis or decked out pickup trucks. Crime rate is way low too, as many polls show Vermont as being the safest state in the country. In all honesty, this is due to a symptom of several reasons, including strict liquor sale policies and an excellent public school system. Plus, there's also the probability that people are too laid back here to bother committing crime. After all, with such a small population, it'd be pretty easy to find out who the neighborhood cat burglar is. And boy, are there a lot of cats to burgle. It's Pet Central. Vermont has the highest number of pet owners of any state. More than 2/3 of Vermonters own a minimum of one pet. But if you make up that 1/3 that lives in a humans-only household, not to worry, as you can always visit Vermont's 440-acre animal sanctuary, the Mountain View Animal Sanctuary. This shelter is home to all sorts of species and welcomes overnight guests at its historic inn. The best part is telling your out-of-town in-laws that you booked them a room at the Fancy Pound. What can be more heavenly than a 440-acre animal sanctuary? Oh yeah, St. Johnsbury Dog Chapel. You see, it all began when a near-death experience had inspired one Vermont artist to build a folk-style chapel atop Dog Mountain in celebration of the special bond between humans and their furry friends. The chapel is adorned with stained glass dogs, puppy statues, and thousands of photos and notes pinned up in honor of man's best friends. This place will certainly get your dog wagging, and, you know what they say, the higher the tail, the closer to heaven. It's a snow sport paradise. You probably saw this one coming, but Vermont is the top destination for snow sports in the Northeast. Skiers and snowboarders alike flock to the mountain state every year, and between Mount Snow, Stratton, Killington, Stowe, and Sugar Bush, the options are basically endless. Even if sliding down a hill with planks strapped to your feet isn't your cup of tea, you can always partake in some other unusual white powder events. Snow golf, anybody? Dummerston, Vermont is in fact the birthplace of this wacky activity, where it was first invented by none other than Rudyard Kipling, author of The Jungle Book. Beloved children's book writer and inventor of snow golf, this dude's got an amazing resume. It has the Atlantis of America. If you have submechanophobia, which is the fear of submerged man-made objects, then you might want to steer clear of Wilmington Reservoir. Although the enormous lake is a popular spot for kayakers, canoers, swimmers, and the like, it didn't always used to be filled with water. Believe it or not, this giant reservoir is now the largest body of water entirely within Vermont's boundaries, and it was once a lush valley, which was home to a vibrant logging community known as the Mountain Hill Settlement. But after the hydroelectric system 1924 completion, the waters began to rise, villagers fled their streets, and houses gradually became flooded. Today, when the tide is low, you can actually make out the remnants of the town that time forgot. And if you look down into the depths, you can still make out bits and pieces of the lost city of Vermont Atlantis. Nothing motivates you to stay on your paddleboard quite like a submerged ghost town below your feet. Wait a minute, ghost town? No fast food? If you want to look at other states before making the decision to move, then check out this video that shares the best states to move to in 2021.